That's great. So welcome to the board, to the staff, to members of the community, to our guests who are going to be part of the presentation, and to our media. So for our board meeting today for Thursday, June the 20th, I will start with the traditional territory acknowledgement. We, the Sarnia Police Services Board, acknowledge the traditional territory of the Council of the Three Fires, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and Ottawa people, that being Aamjiwnaang Sarnia First Nation, the Kedwinong Walpole Island First Nation, Kiikinong Kettle Point First Nation, and the Anishinaabe Stony Point First Nation. I'll look to the board to see if there's any declarations of conflict of interest this morning. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for today? Okay, so that's Board Member Vandenberg and Board Member Ash. I should have done this prior to asking for the moving and seconding, because we do have a couple of changes to the agenda. And that is on point number 6, that OACP award presentation actually is going to be made by the chair, or by the chief rather than the chair. So that's just a small change there. And then would like to add a item to the agenda. We'll call that 8.5. That's going to be a presentation on prisoner care and control. So with those changes to the agenda, the mover and seconder are still good. All right. Any questions or concerns about the agenda? All those in favor? All right, that's approved. Thank you. And then ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the May 30th meeting. Okay, Board Member McRoberts, seconded by Board Member Ash. Any questions or concerns about those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's approved as well. All right, that brings us to item number 6. And just looking at the agenda, we don't have a very lengthy meeting today, but we have lots of very, very positive things to celebrate today. And we'll start with the first one and turn it over to the chief.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. Just a bit of recognition for the Sarnia Police Service. So at the OACP annual conference, they have a number of awards that are provincial awards. At the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. Services from across Ontario submit nominations in a couple of different categories, and every year individual services are selected for recognition based on different projects or initiatives that police services have done. This year, we're pleased to say that our Sarnia Police Community Crime Unit was selected as a provincial winner in the Community Safety, Wellness, and Crime Prevention Award category. It's presented in recognition of the accomplishments of agencies that work towards community safety and well-being. So I'm pleased to say that the award-winning Sarnia Police Service has received the OACP award for the community police. I think that's worthy of sharing and recognizing. A lot of people have put a lot of effort into this program. Uriah Dodge, Tristan Bosberg, all the senior command team have been put at various levels, and the service has done a ton of work in IT, everyone, just to get everything going. So the initiative has gone very well, as you know. You see your other presentations on this. We have some of the students have returned as summer students with us for the summer. We've had one of our community crime unit students become an auxiliary officer, and we are looking at expanding our program in collaboration with Lampton College. This coming school year, we're going to go from 4 to 6 students and see where it goes from there. In addition, I can add that Sarnia Police have received a number of inquiries from outside services, including from the Big 12, about how we started this program and how other agencies can also adopt a similar system. So I think it's a real feather in the Sarnia Police Service cap to have such an innovative program and to have the interest from all the other agencies that we've had so far. Just want to share that. Yeah.
And just I was actually at the award ceremony. That's the photo. There's numerous police services that were in that category competing for that award, and the feedback we received was that this was one of the easiest selections. That it was pretty unanimous that this was the award winner. And as the chief mentioned, I had so many people come up to me at that ceremony asking, here's my business card. As soon as you get back, can you send us information on how we could do something similar? So this is a great accomplishment, and it was a really positive experience for us.
Well, congratulations, Chief and Deputy, and to the entire team. This is a a very notable achievement, and I know that it's very innovative, the partnership with Lambton College. I have contacts with Lambton College too, and I know that they're very much celebrating this as being a very progressive way to proceed in the province. And so nice that the Sarnia Police Service can be recognized among its peers, both provincially and nationally. So congratulations on that. I'll look to the board if there's any questions or comments. I hope I summarized our general feelings about the matter. All right, that's fantastic. So we'll have to make sure that we put that that trophy or plaque in a prominent area and celebrate that. So, okay, thank you. We'll move on to the another celebration presentation. So that's the Aamjiwnaang Cruiser Artist presentation. And Deputy, are you taking the lead on that?
I'm going to go up to the front here, and I know you don't want to. There's just one time I promise it will be done soon. Thank you. Back in March of 2023, one of the things that I was tasked with when I came here was the creation of the dedicated Aamjiwnaang community officer job description and getting that program implemented. And Officer Tyler Callender, as we all know, is that officer and is doing a phenomenal job in the community. The next phase of that was we really wanted to have a cruiser design done that was reflective of the First Nation community, and we wanted that design to come from the community. And Aaron created an image that I know we presented the vehicle a couple of weeks ago, and the response to that from both Aamjiwnaang and from the city of Sarnia, our citizens, and from our police officers has just been overwhelming. And we wanted to thank you, say miigwech, to you for that design that you created, and to present you with just a token of our appreciation. And we talk about partnerships. We have a phenomenal partnership with Aamjiwnaang First Nation, but it goes beyond that. It's actually a friendship, and you are part of that. And that design and that vehicle, as it drives through the community, is just that daily reminder of what that looks like. So the design that Aaron created, he named it Keeper. And it was a design featuring images of warriors, women, and Mother Earth. The medicine wheel is a reminder that everything comes in fours: the seasons, the 4 stages of life, and the 4 cardinal directions. The orange handprint is to help us remember and honor the lives of our children. So on behalf of the Sarnia Police Service and the Sarnia Police Service Board, we want to present you with this. And also just a token of our appreciation.
Oh, great.
Yeah, miigwech.
Thank you.
I'm a hugger.
So Aaron, I have something to say. I had an opportunity to attend the unveiling, and that was a very fantastic event at Aamjiwnaang. But I think maybe just a week or 2 ago, I was at the EDI committee from the OACP. They met at Aamjiwnaang, and as I came into the venue, the vehicle was prominently displayed. In fact, you couldn't even get in the front door; you had to walk around it. So everyone there saw it, and I know there was lots of people were very, very impressed with your work. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much.
And miigwech to the community members that came out as well today. That this was important for us to recognize Aaron, and we're very happy that you were able to be here and be part of that as well. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have to put everything.
Okay, so that brings us to our monthly operation update. That's the deputy has her name beside that. She's going to speak to that. Okay. That's okay. Chief, I'm putting you on the spot, but any chance that we can get the picture of the vehicle for display? Do we have that handy? And if not, that's fine. So we can come back to that. I just thought it would be interesting to see that once again. Deputy, did you want to go with the monthly operation? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the operational update is just a snapshot of some of the things that are going on with the starting services in the community. We've sort of moved away from some of the crime stats because we're putting those out through a lot of our media releases and our Twitter updates. So I wanted to focus on some things that maybe the board wasn't as aware of. In June of 2024, members of our traffic services unit, our youth and policing initiative, our auxiliary unit, which is now operational, and our youth engagement and diversion team took part in a road safety initiative called Safe Prom. Really, this was an educational opportunity as students are graduating and celebrating prom season to remind them to plan ahead and to ensure that they have a safe ride home. So we held some ride spot checks around local schools and did some social media messaging with that, and received a lot of positive feedback from the community. Just a nice reminder, again, that to choose your options so that you're not choosing a ride where somebody could potentially be impaired or putting yourself or other people at risk. The Youth and Policing Initiative, we have a full-time coordinator in Elijah Collier. He presented at the Sarnia Police, or represented the Sarnia Police at the Youth Retention Summit and received, again, really great feedback. He has been part of the selection process of the new UP students, and they will be starting with us full-time on July 2nd. The law enforcement torch run took place as well in June. So June historically is a very busy month in policing with a lot of events taking place. The law enforcement torch run is the largest public awareness fundraising event for Special Olympics globally. The SPS has been participating in this for a number of years. And on June 7th, we joined our partners in public safety, athletes to support Special Olympics Ontario. Inspector Vanstol was able to provide the welcoming remarks on behalf of the Sarnia Police Service to over 140 participants. And Jocelyn Peckett, again, this year was our torch run organizer and actually got to carry the torch on behalf of the organization. There's a photo in there, just a huge shout. And as the chair mentioned, the OACP Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, I am co-chair of that committee. We meet multiple times a year, and each service has an opportunity to host. The Sarnia Police Service has not hosted this meeting in a very, very long time. And so we thought that this would be a great opportunity to not only host, but to bring the committee to Aamjiwnaang First Nation. Aamjiwnaang was amazing in how they welcomed this committee into the First Nation community. We had a traditional meal, so they did the food for us. We had Indian tacos, which was just a massive hit for all of the people there. Joanne Rogers provided opening remarks on behalf of Aamjiwnaang, and the chief had, I think, his first vacation in about forever. So we were fortunate enough to have the chair come in and do welcoming remarks on behalf of the police service. Super meaningful for the committee members that were there. Some of them had never been in a First Nation territory before. The vehicle was there. We were able to do a tour of the grounds, go to the residential school memorial. The feedback from that has just been tremendous. Normally we have our meetings, in a police station, something like this. So to be able to bring that into the community and to add on some different experiences was just, like I said, the feedback's just been phenomenal. Happy to answer any questions. Again, just a positive report on what's been happening with the service in the community.
Questions or comments from the board? I did want to just make a comment about the Safe Prom. So being an educator, I'm a little bit more attuned to prom season. But I have to say that in all my years, I haven't seen this level of social media presence and really just promoting. Like we've always had a message that we need to promote safe proms, but I saw it. The campaign was pretty evident. So congratulations on that. I think it was pretty effective in terms of getting the message out. So okay, we'll move on then to 8.5. So that's our prisoner care and control presentation. Chief.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. I appreciate this is a last minute presentation. So we want to update the public and the board on some of the changes that have occurred in terms of prisoner custody and one of the latest initiatives. And Inspector Vance will speak to that very specifically. Let's see once we get going. Just, is it moving or is it just a slow internet?
No, I don't think it's moving.
So as that slowly updates over very slow internet. Not to read the slide, but since 2000, there's been adequacy standards that have police services across Ontario have been subject to, and even before then. This is the 2000 version. We're obviously under the new Community Safety and Policing Act. I can assure you that these standards will not diminish. They will only grow over time in terms of what we're dealing with. But just know that when we talk about prisoner care and control in terms of a police service, there's a number of legislative requirements and a number of things that we must comply with as a police department to be able to hold people in our custody safely and to be able to do our job. And just some of the examples, like you have to notify the officer in charge and staff sergeant of any injuries, any medication, any impairment, any risk to self-harm, violence. All these components need to be assessed when people come into the custody of the building because we are responsible for them. This is one of the many reasons that makes policing distinct amongst first responders and why it's just unique in and of itself. We have very specific risks and very specific things that we have to address that other agencies do not. We have to ensure that they are safe, really, is what it comes down to at all times. There's again, the special precautions, we go through this. So anytime a prisoner comes into custody, they are, we call it paraded. They come in, they're into the booking area. They are meet with the officer in charge of the station. There's a battery of questions that are asked. There's an assessment done, and all these different pieces have to be in place. We also have to, by adequacy standards, address some key issues of security, including the firearms and lockup areas, policies and procedures. All of this legislative requirement around prisoner care and control, including medical emergencies, cell deaths, evacuations, emergency procedures. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to prisoner care and control. In 2022, the board hired me as a new police chief. One of the first things that was brought to my attention as I was trying to learn as much as I could in my first few weeks was the officers expressed extreme concern about the state of our lockup facility in 2022. And I believe the board was present at one of the strategic planning sessions. There was an internal town hall, and one of our sergeants actually spoke quite emotionally about the risk and the fear and the concerns about the state of the cells. So that literally led to some urgent need for improvement. So it was affecting our officers. People were resistant to actually bring people in for concern of the safety of prisoners in the building. It was affecting people's well-being. It was very evident. So we had to take a look at some things right away. Bars, for example, were present on our cells. And I know stereotypically everyone thinks all prison cells have bars. Well, modern ones do not. They may be there, but they're protected by plexiglass so that you can't form a ligature point. You can't get something to tie something to. So modern cells have plexi. Very poor lighting in our cells, very poor video recording issues, prisoner monitoring. And in our building, based on the original design from the 80s, the OIC staff sergeant is on the ground floor, but the cells are in the basement. So to monitor prisoners, you're literally traversing stairs, time delay, these types of things. And there was no monitoring dedicated to the cells unless an officer was pulled off the road and assigned to the cell area. So in 2022, the board, before even the 2023 budget cycle, approved some emergency immediate actions. Some of those immediate mitigating things that were implemented was 4 special constables were hired that fall, and one special constable in every platoon to provide a dedicated resource to monitor in the cell areas. The facilities team retrofitted the cells with plexiglass. Lighting was added. The IT team and the facilities team worked on extra video monitoring. We had to invest a lot of money and a lot of resources into making these cells functional. When we're talking about prisoners, we're talking about what a police service does. We arrest people for criminal offenses, for mental health apprehensions, When we are interacting with people, it's not often on someone's best day. We are dealing with people that are struggling with other challenges a lot of the time, and this is some of the pieces that I think people need to be aware of when we talk about the scope of this problem when we're talking about prisoner custody. In 2023, we made 3,243 arrests, and that's up 6% from 2022. So that's 3,200 people who were arrested, taken into police custody. That's a lot of people. Every one of those individuals, the second they're under arrest, is under our liability for our care and control, whether it's on the street or whether it's in the building. This year, so far, our arrests are up 15% already, Jan 1 to June 20. I ran these this morning, and you can see where our increases are. So the chart on the right, I sorted by the big buckets, like what are the highest number areas. Warrants are down 30, but warrants are also the biggest number. So we're making the most amount of arrests in warrants. Domestic disputes are up significantly. Bail violations are up. Shoplifting, mental health, assault, theft, attempt, threat of suicide, break and enter. These are all significant offenses or apprehensions in state of the mental health component that are all increasing. So just in 2024, we're up 15%. We're not up 15% in staffing. We're not up 15% in additional resources, but we are up in arrest categories. And this is the important part. And then add that in some of the concerns about what prisoner care and control involves in terms of liability and risk mitigation. So in 2023, so we're going back all of last year so we can have a fair snapshot. We have all those arrests that includes in the field and the people that are brought into the station. But of the people that come into the station, we have 1,778 booking reports. So these are people that have come in and they've been booked to the cells through our inside the station process. So our sample size here is 23 is almost 1,800 people were brought into the building. So when they come in, as I mentioned, the staff sergeant asks the questions because it's a liability piece. Who are you? You know, what's your name? All the stuff that we normally ask and we confirm because we have to protect their safety while they're here. So we ask questions like this: do you have any illness or injury? And of those 1,778 reports, 19% of the people who answered the question said yes. 1 in 5 have illness or injury. And I want you to think of this in terms of risk. So we're dealing with high-risk populations. We're bringing them into a building. We're 100% liable for their safety and security while they're here and the safety and security of our officers. And 1 in 5 of them has an existing illness or injury when they arrive. Are you taking any medication? 30% said yes. And the refused is the amount of people that just refused to answer the question. So we have to assume a positive answer to that. So 1 in 3 are on medication. Have you consumed any drugs or alcohol in the last 24 hours? 50% said yes of the people that answered the question. And then of the total amount, 59% refused to answer the question because they probably don't want to tell the police if they consume drugs or alcohol. But we have to assume that number actually adds up to around 78% of people that come into booking have consumed drugs or alcohol in the previous 24 hours. And we don't often know what they've consumed, how much they've consumed, what the physical impacts are. They going to go into withdrawals? These are significant medical issues. Do you have any other medical or health related problems? Again, 1 in 5 are reporting yes. Are you suicidal? We actually asked the question directly. 3 very low number answers yes to that, but 59% of the people refuse to answer. Of everyone coming in, they just refuse. So we have to assume out of just risk mitigation that there were risks to that. Have you ever tried to harm yourself? 19% replied yes. So add all that up in a profile of what we're dealing with here in the cells. Very high risk, a clear need to monitor, a clear liability in terms of if someone has a medical issue or some sort of calamity occurs that we have to deal with. So as a police service in 2024 across the board, and bear in mind that our community that we're policing is in a top tier of the CSI, top 25%. We clearly have some challenges with illegal street drugs. We have challenges with mental health. We have challenges with addiction, clearly in the community. Our facility deficiencies and modern requirements of cells are a challenge. We've retrofitted as much as we can. We've tried to make the best of what we have. But when you compare the current police facility built in 1987 to what a modern police facility is constructed like, based on all these concerns, based on all these requirements, very different design and construction in terms of safety and monitoring and privacy and all the issues and legislative requirements that are intended for prisoner care and control. We are dealing with highly toxic substances that we did not deal with 10 years ago, and they certainly were not present in 1987. Fentanyl in particular is a deadly drug in small quantities that people will conceal in and on their bodies. And we are dealing with people that may have consumed prior to custody, or if they've concealed it in a place that we're not allowed to search or we can't detect, then there have been instances across the province, certainly where people have ingested these deadly drugs after coming into custody, which increases the risk. High-risk prisoners we're dealing with, the mental health component, violence, any of those medical conditions we talked about, the suicide, self-harm, and contaminants as well, contagious disease, you name it, it's coming through the cell area. If someone has the unfortunate circumstance where they pass or they die in police custody, it's a mandatory coroner's inquest. Any in custody death, there's an automatic inquest. Those inquests come at the expense of the organization and time and people. There's likely an SIU investigation on top of it, because any kind of injury or death in custody is investigated by the SIU as appropriate oversight. Consider the costs as well for lost time in those types of circumstances, the stress, the well-being, the fear of people of it happening again. All these concerns translate into a multi-layered financial risk and liability if we do not have adequate and effective prisoner monitoring capabilities within our organization. So just to go back, since 2022, the board has approved a number of very positive improvements, but we are still dealing with some infrastructure challenges that we have, and we are also dealing with an evolving prisoner demographic, as evidenced by our statistics, that needs to be addressed. And with that, I'm going to call Mike Vansville up to introduce what's happening, because we have to ask ourselves, are we doing everything we can as a police service to protect people in our custody and to protect our officers from injury, liability, and all those other components?
Okay, so thank you, sir. Just to reiterate what the chief said right at the very beginning there, was the impact that it was having on the people. And Sergeant Peters and Johan Lewis were the champions of the messaging of how difficult it was to be the staff sergeant within this building based on everything that the chief described there. What we really need to understand in policing is that when we talk about risk to an organization, ultimately we think about it in the collective that, oh my gosh, if something were to happen here, we're going to get sued. But in policing, they identify one person every single time who is responsible for what happened to an individual. So it's not the organization that people are concerned about, they're concerned about themselves. So the staff sergeant in the building is thinking, if anything happens to anybody in this building, it's me, it's my responsibility, it's my livelihood, it's my life, it's my ability to provide for the family. And so it had a massive impact on how our organization operated, because to the chief's point of all the substances that people take now, the health risks that people face when they come into custody weighed on them. We commonly refer to them as prisoners because they're in our custody, but internally we'll refer to them as patients because we're taking care of them constantly. We're evaluating their health and well-being on a continuous basis. And so with having the staff sergeant's office upstairs, cell block is downstairs, the monitoring fell to that individual. So the special constables that were implemented last year, amazing, absolutely amazing, because it took a lot of that weight off the shoulders of the staff sergeant. So having the dedicated person to monitor a prisoner is essential. But how can we go further? Because if we have the ability to do more to protect our employees, we need to do it. So we took the initiative to source what I'm about to talk about for the betterment of the employees here. Nobody came to us and said, hey, can we do this or can we do that? We've constantly been evaluating what we can do to improve. And just in keeping with what's happened over the last couple of years, the embracing of technology is what is really helping us. And so this, what's on the screen here, the little box in the corner of the inside of our cell is just another step in that direction. So we have partnered with a company called Xander Guardian, I believe, who is associated to GT Technical Services or something, I'll become close, Global Services, using radar technology to monitor the biometrics of the people in our custody. So that little box in the corner of the cell there is emitting a radar signal and registering movement, heartbeat, and respiratory rates of the people in our custody. I'm not going to get into the technology too much because I really don't understand it and it would probably just be confusing, but basically it's sensing the movements. That system understands obviously what movement is, but knows what a heart rhythm is supposed to be and how it appears on the radar as well as the respiratory system. So those are in all 7 of our cells downstairs, which provide a digital output of what the person is doing. So in conjunction with our imaging, we can see what's happening. So how did we get here? The image on the left is what cell block monitoring was for the better part of my career. It was an outside image of the inside of the cell. So we were watching that image on the left from upstairs, unsure if the person's sleeping, alive, moving, if they're in distress at all. That's where we were. We've since installed new cameras inside the cells, new lighting, there's plexiglass on those, and that's where we are now, is on the right. So there's massive improvements in how we are monitoring our prisoners. And so the use of the technology and the radar is just an advancement within that. So if we go to the next one, sir. This is what the dashboard looks like. Those are our 7 cells. You can see that 1, 2, and 3 are occupied, and green is good. Like anything else, yeah, red is not, and neither is orange. So that's what it's an online system. So we log into a web page dedicated to the Sarnia Police, and we can see what is happening in our cells in real time if they're occupied. So what we're looking at now is the 4 images of cells in the basement. You can see that 2 are occupied, and this is what the display is going to be now. Instead of just having the outside cameras, we have the inside cameras in conjunction with the biometrics. So I can see that there's 2 prisoners in the cells. Obviously on the right, there are 2 prisoners in cells 1 and 2, and green is good. So that means that that system is registering a normal respiratory rate, a normal heart rate, and likely movement. Any type of movement it is going to pick up. So what we're looking at here is actually a video. And this is one of the biggest problems with monitoring a prisoner, because I think that we're just going a little bit slow. Yeah, go ahead. So what you'll notice is obviously there's things moving on the left where our biometrics are. But this is what we'll see for 8 hours at a time, is that person on the right will not move. And so we'll zoom in on the cameras and we'll look for the rise and the fall of the chest, and we'll look for the slightest little movement. We continuously check them. And let me just step back and say that this system does not change the physical checks of the people whatsoever. We have a set rate of when we will check prisoners. Increased risk, we'll check them more regularly. But there's a prisoner right there who would be like that for 8 consecutive hours and not move a muscle. Now we have the ability to see what we can't see with the naked eye, is the lungs are moving and the heart is moving. And that's what we're obviously quite concerned about. And what it also prevents us having to do is to wake that person up, because that's how it went in the past, is that if we couldn't do a physical evaluation of the person through the bars, then it was the touching of the feet, making enough noise to rouse the person to ensure that they are okay. And if we're checking every 15 minutes or 30 minutes on a prisoner, we're waking them up every 15 to 30 minutes. And so at some level, you get into the disrupted sleep. If we're going to do this through the night, they just want to sleep, and now we're waking them up every 15 minutes. Is this the way that we want to be treating people? It's certainly not the way that we want to be treated. So just let me sleep and leave me alone, but I'm checking on you. I'm fine. And then you get into a little bit of confrontation with them too. So now we have the ability to say, they're fine. Trust the biometrics, do the physical check, and they're good to go. So if we jump back to this one here, and before you play it here, sir, it's going to go pretty quick. This is forgive the acting within this. This is going to be myself and Staff Sergeant Lewis, who tried to put together a little presentation, for lack of a better term, on how the system works. So what you're looking at there is cell number 5, I believe. So you can see that it is currently vacant, that there is no registering of any movement within there. We've confirmed that, yes, it is vacant. And what's going to happen as this plays is that Johan's going to come into the cell. You'll see a change on the biometrics display. Johan's going to sit there. What we tried to do is we set the parameters in such a fashion that even a normal heart rate will fail, because we told it if it has more than 1 beat a minute, set off an alarm, and if it has less than 1 beat a minute, set off an alarm. So it was we were able to make it fail because we can set those parameters of what a normal rhythm is. After he sits down, you'll see I'll come and do a check. This is how the process is going to be. The red alert is going to mean that I need to go check this person right now. And through the course of us having this installed, we'll get a lot of red alerts, but it doesn't mean that there's any kind of problem. It just means that we need to check on the person to ensure that there's not a problem. And then when he leaves the cell, that's going to be a problem. So we'll just let this play. I'll try to talk our way through it here. It's going to be a pretty quick video, but it was cropped for this presentation perspective. So when a prisoner is added to a cell, the biometrics will immediately recognize that he's in there. There is movement. Everything is good. You can see the wavelengths on the right is actually him moving within that cell. His heart rate is going to get to such a point where now we need to check on him and make sure that he's okay. So immediately, here comes the supervisor to check. Everything is good. We're going to go back to the computer. We're going to tell the computer that he's actually okay. So maybe it was just he did some jumping jacks or something like that, and the heart rate elevated. What's going to happen here? And Johan's going to get up and walk out of that cell, which is a problem because we don't want people escaping from our cells. So we're immediately going to know that they are. But similar to an empty cell is a person in the cell without vital signs. So almost immediately, if somebody's heart was to stop or their lungs were to stop, then we will know almost right away that, oh my gosh, there is a major problem in there. Hopefully we get one of those red alerts prior to the orange alert, but the orange alert means that the cell is empty or that there are no vital signs. And that's what we're looking at there. And that's what the display will look like when that happens. I think she's okay, just going for a drink. I believe that's the end of it. So what this offers us is just another level of security to protect our members. And the administration has gone over and above to provide resources to the officers on the front line to protect them, whether it's through the equipment that we get, the advancements in technologies. Wellness is so important to this administration that it can't go unsaid as often as we can say it. And this is just another one of those examples where we've taken the wellness of the officers from the NCO level all the way to the constable to be comfortable in bringing prisoners within this building, because we're going to take care of them and we're going to take care of the people who do it. We are, trying to undo some of the damage that was done with respect to the mentality of the staff sergeants. The staff sergeants would say, "Don't bring me anyone. Just don't bring them here," because they knew the liability lied with them. Now we have the special constables, we have biometrics monitoring, we have robust policies and procedures in place that allow us to care for those people, such that as demonstrated in those analytics, the rates of arrest are through the roof, the rates of detention are through the roof, which is the right thing to do. We are making the right decisions at the right time because we have the facilities now to be able to take care of them. Subject to any questions, that's the new system that's been implemented here. We are on the forefront of embracing this kind of technology. If you relate it towards a senior living home, so if that unit was in your loved one's room and they were a wanderer, immediately the business would know, oh, they're up and out of the room, let's act right away. Problems with the medical, right away. And incorporating it into policing is new, and we are right at the forefront. We're going to be one of a very, very select few within this province embracing this technology.
Well, thank you. That is pretty impressive. I'll just look to the board if there's any questions or concerns or comments. I have one, but I'll let other people go first if anyone wants to speak. Board Member Ash.
At the internal town hall, the passion, I can't even say passion, but the urgency that the staff sergeants both presented was effective. So I know when we made the call for the the special constables. It felt like the right thing, knowing that it still wasn't enough. So this seems to be now uh, for what we have to deal with, it seems to be at least effective. And I mean, London right now is under scrutiny because they had somebody die last week. So we don't want to be that. We don't want that. It's a good job.
This will allow us to offer emergency care immediately. If we were to check a prisoner right now, the standard says I check them again in 15 minutes. If some emergency was to happen after I walk away, it's 15 minutes before we check again. Now, the special constable will sit down. The one display that was up there is actually what it's going to be in that special constable office. The staff sergeant has the same thing. And if they walk away, something happens. By the time they get back to that office, there's an audible alert, there's the visual alert, they're right back. And if it wasn't something that needed to be addressed, if it just was an anomaly, have that conversation. Okay, no problem. And then we'll document that each time that we interact with those prisoners, it is documented.
So as I said, it's very impressive and very innovative, and I support it. But I do ask about the balance between prisoners' privacy, and obviously that was probably taken into consideration, and it's probably been vetted in terms of whether that level of monitoring is considered to be within prisoners' rights. I don't know what rights prisoners have, but I don't know if you can comment on that piece of it.
Well, I'll certainly speak to the requirement of us to ensure their care while they're here, right? So if it's just another level of protection that we're offering to them, how this system works is that if you were to see, like I showed you live real images, you have an inability to determine who's what and who's where. We can put the pieces together. We don't save this information, and we certainly don't disclose it to anybody. And you're basically looking at a green, red, orange, or white square. That's the limitation that the officers have. It's that simple. So we're not even collecting the information. It does track over a period of time, every 5 minutes, what the average heart rate was through a period of time, but we're not personalizing that information.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify. I'm not. I do support it. I just wanted to make sure that we're covered in terms of that piece of it. And I was curious also what the records retention would be on that. Like, so you're saying that we don't save it, or maybe we save it for a certain period of time.
So it does maintain it, because again, it's designed for one individual person over the period of 6 months. We can monitor their behavior. We interchange those people hourly, daily, and certainly we'll go days without having anybody in there. There's no ability to draw the nexus for who was that when they're looking at the information that we're capturing on the biometrics. There's absolutely no way to identify that portion of it. And I think that the chief was just going to speak to something there.
Chief?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The Deputy and I have been through a number of IPC reviews in our prior lives. We've been through a whole IPC investigation, through validation of some of the programs. So we understand very much how the IPC works. I can say that any technology implementation does take into consideration privacy. In this particular case, one of the ways we protect privacy is the systems are separate. So this system is compartmentalized with no personal identifiers. It's just the cell number. So even if you wanted to try to connect things back, like no one on the outside of the Sergeant Police Service would know who's in that cell. It's strictly medical monitoring for safety. There's no name, there's no ID number, there's nothing there. It's just this is the cell and this is what's occurring in the cell with no identity. And part of the reason we do it that way, that compartmentalization, is to protect the identity. Then in terms of cost, because I know someone's going to cost. The cost question is always there. This is less than the third. The startup cost is less than the third of a cost of a special constable. And then there's even a fraction of that is there's an annual subscription for the maintenance and the monitoring of the system. So from an investment perspective, the question really is how could we not do this? We are, as Inspector Vansco mentioned, one of the very first adopters of this technology in the province. We were very fast implementing this. Barrie was 1 week faster than us. So we are literally number 2, even though it was a race to the press release. Kudos to Barrie, they beat us on that one too. But it's for a small medium service. I don't know any other services that have this technology. And when we certainly look at what we're dealing with in terms of our needs for prisoner care and control in the city of Sarnia, this type of technology is an absolute essential. Once we saw it, we did the research, Mike's team looked into it. Regina is one of the earliest adopters out west, and they've had tremendous success. And the service Mike did all the background investigation into this. Regina's had safes.
Two confirmed where they used the monitoring, their attention was drawn to it, went to the cell, administered naloxone for the prisoner, emergency medical care, and certainly saved 2 lives. They are
And larger organizations, for the board's awareness, have paramedics stationed themselves. That is the level of risk being experienced by police services across the country. Obviously, that's not viable for us, but this type of technology is certainly mitigates that risk reasonably.
Just the larger organizations have actual central lockup units, so they have full-time resources, multiple that are assigned right within the cell area with the addition of EMS support inside the facility. So probably the highest risk part for us is prisoner care custody.
Well, excellent work, and we're fully implemented, are we?
Yes.
Yep.
We're just working on the rollout of the training. We went live last night. Staff Sergeant Lewis worked last night and used the system for the first time. Reported back positively on it. We've been watching it for a few weeks, comparing video to what we see on the biometrics to ensure that it's accurate.
Through the
Member
chair,
Ash?
is it possible to have it on a portable device that the special constable can carry with them in case they have to leave the area?
Yes, is the answer, because it is web-based. So we're
Yeah.
logging into a web-based, but the checks and balances that we already have in place. So there's three stations that are monitoring prisoners. One dedicated in the cells as a special constable, but if they do have to go away, they are supported by somebody at the front desk as well as a staff sergeant.
Okay.
This will be, the staff sergeant's office is staffed, like it's a 24/7, unless they're traveling downstairs to deal with the prisoners, they're in that office. And we are working with the facilities team on ensuring that there is a independent computer monitor audio system in place there for this. If the alarms are going off, there's going to be a lot of people that are aware.
Okay, thank you again. So that brings us to item number 9 in the agenda. And I just wanted to report out to the board and to the public that the Joint Facility Committee, which was struck by this board and by the City of Sarnia to take a look at a facilities plan for the Sarnia headquarters, will be meeting for its first time tomorrow morning. So we're very excited about that. The general mandate is to really give consideration to what the future is going to be in terms of facilities for this particular organization. And the timelines that we're looking at are going to be fairly short. So I can report back to the board that our expectation is that we're going to have some tangible recommendations probably in the early fall. So, and board members Sebastian and board member Vandenberg and myself will be representing the board on that committee. If there's any questions or concerns? All right, then seeing none, then we'll keep this as a standing item because we really feel that this is a high priority for the board at this time. We'll move on to item number 10, open forum. Any topics, questions, comments from anyone? Chief, deputy, anything? Okay, then we will move towards adjournment. I will report that in our closed session, we will be dealing with, we will have an HR update. We'll have an update on negotiations with the association, and we'll have an update on the deputy chief hiring process. Chief?
My apologies, Mr. Chair. I just think I would be missed if I didn't mention just a very quick Rainbow Park update. I can say that Sarnia Police continues to have increased presence there. I can also tell the board that over the past 6 weeks, what we're experiencing as a police service is a draw on resources so far equivalent to 2 full-time police officers, just for that response. So I think it's important to know that there's between 30 to 40 people there currently. It's obviously a high need population, and it's a high need in terms of our police perspective. We are working very closely with city administration as far as coming up with some solutions, meeting regularly to see what can be done. It's not, lots of other municipalities are in the same boat, but just know that we are seeing a significant draw. We're almost up to 400 hours just in the past 6 weeks, just in extra dedicated dispatch time, never mind the stuff that we're not capturing with impact and these other pieces. And if we extrapolate that increase, it is significant.
And just to add to that, one of the additional challenges is that some of the other community service providers won't go into the park unless they're going in with a police resource. So that just adds another layer where in order to get the services in, we have to be connected to those outside services. So an example of that is the health bus that is now attending at the request of the Sarnia Police Service, but they won't go unless there's a police presence with them. And we're also getting information that even though by law and some of the other teams are asking for that police assistance as well when they're going, which adds, to that resource challenge on us.
We are not hands off. I know the social media tends to go off on tangents, and a lot of it's quite uninformed. From a police perspective, we are there daily throughout the day at different types of calls for service. We're there proactively. There has been multiple arrests. We've had warrants. We've had seizures. We've had all kinds of police interaction that you would expect in terms of a police response to a high risk.
Yeah, and there are some positive things coming out of this. Today, we're actually hoping somebody gets back into another community where they're from. The parents are taking that person in and hoping to get them the services they need. This has been something the impact team has been trying to do for probably 8 months. And just sort of highlights that when people are ready to get the assistance that they need, that, when they're ready, they may make that decision, and that our teams are working literally around the clock, trying to support individuals, trying to connect them. And sometimes it's just one good news story at a time. But that's actually being facilitated. Like I just got the email, like right now as we speak, that's happening through that relationship building over an 8-month period.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Roberts.
The chair, that bus is county funded, is it not? So
No. So that bus is through the Canadian Mental Health Association, and it's actually an unfunded program, I believe. So the funding for that is coming through CMHA themselves, and on that bus, they have people that can offer that acute medical kind of service, but they also have the ability to help support with mental health and substance misuse disorders as well. But not funded by the county.
I may reach out to them, not that I can tell them what to do, but maybe parking at the end of the Good Shepherd. They're gonna have the folks that are already there.
Yeah, they actually have a schedule online and they do go to multiple locations. We asked specifically that the bus come into Rainbow Park after the chief and I did our walkthrough. We noticed that there were people within that park that could use some medical assistance. We believe in, if people need the services, being able to bring the services to them in the event that they don't go to where the services are provided. There's a schedule online, so you can see online where they are when they're there. The Rainbow Park situation itself, they want a police presence when they go there, and Impact works closely with them to make sure that their schedule is aligned.
And that's only every other Monday.
Every other Monday, I believe.
For how many hours? Like, is it a full
They
day?
were there for almost 6 hours last Monday. And one of the challenges is when something new is introduced to a community, it's not necessarily received right away. And so they actually, the first day that they were there, they didn't see a ton of people. But again, it's just being available and having that service there so that if people do want to access it, they can. Again, it's a big commitment of police resources, having, 2 officers stationed there for a period of 6 hours, waiting for not a ton of people to access that service. But some of these things take time in order to get people comfortable that, they can go there and there's not any, kind of repercussion for using that.
Well, we appreciate all your work on this, and we know it's a challenge. It's also a human, very much a human tragedy, and a discussion among levels of government and the community. And we know that it has an impact on our resources. And I trust, Chief, that at some point we might be able to even report back on the impact in terms of the budget, because this is obviously an unexpected cost. And we also acknowledge, I think, the emotional toll that this has had on all the people that have been involved in the situation.
And Mr. Chair, just to that, that emotional toll is also a toll that our officers are experiencing. This is an extremely challenging type of work to be doing day in and day out, and we're in constant conversation with specifically our impact team to check on their wellness. It is a very, very tough job. Today, I can tell you spirits are high because the efforts that they've done over months has now resulted in a really positive change for an individual that's been unhoused and living there. The other thing is we are in constant communication with the city of Sarnia as well. So we're working very closely with the city. They have the encampment protocol that's gone from the CSWB group to the city of Sarnia to take the lead on. And we've been in conversations with them, providing input on behalf of the Sarnia Police Service, what we can and can't do, and really working in a really positive way. This is a community-wide challenge. It's not just the city. It also impacts all of our emergency responders, and it impacts the community. And so I think, again, sometimes the information is nobody's doing anything or we're working in silos. We've been actually had some very productive meetings with the city to come up with some types of solutions to make the issue better, not worse.
Okay, Board Member Roberts.
I've been there when your impact team has been there, and they are amazing. It's that you're not going to run us down, kind of, right? I'm here as a respectful person trying to mitigate, show that is going on there, and then still being able to speak to them and understanding that mental health. Some people are just not healthy and they're dealing with that in very professional manner. So it's nice to see some folk coming up and actually having a real conversation with the issues they're having, the officers dealing with them as they can.
Yeah, and they're seeing it, mental health is a component. There's many individuals in the community that live with mental health and aren't there. The issue here, really what we're seeing and what we're being told by every agency is that this is addiction driven, not mental health driven. And, there is a distinction between the two. And really when we're having these conversations, we have to be talking about addiction and drug misuse and addiction disorders, because that's going to be part of the solution. We're not seeing huge increases in mental health. What we're seeing is this is being really driven by addiction, and we're doing other things outside of Rainbow Park to look at how do we, again, contribute to this, things like a community impact statement, and then also working with the courts. So we have meetings set up about drug treatment courts as an alternative to different types of sentencing. So there's a lot happening, but I think this, again, was just an opportunity for us to share with the board that there's, tons of things happening behind the scenes, and a lot of work that's being done to address what's really a community issue right now.
Okay, one more follow-up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just mentioned out at the county, we were lucky enough to speak to 2 MPPs. And my question then was, where are the rehabs? And apparently London's getting a 130 or 150 room facility that they're planning. And I said, but what about all the other cities? Like 140 or 180 cities are all suffering with this. Where's ours? And it can't be left to the municipalities. We don't have the funds to look at that. So we're definitely pushing.
Okay, thank you. Good update, and we'll keep that in mind. I'll look for a motion to adjourn to closed session. Board Member Ash, Board Member McRoberts, all those in favor? Okay, that's approved. Just for our community and media, our next regular public meeting will be on Tuesday, August 27th, and we'll re-adjourn to closed. We'll take a 5-minute break or so,